Live from Citizen TV, this is Friday Night with Lilian Mooney.
Good evening and thank you so much for your time. It's World Radio Day, Emmanuel. What do you have to celebrate today?
Well, we got a lot in the world of sports. We've got some news on AFCON. We have the UAE half marathon and some info on the National Super League as well. But World Radio Day, it's a nice day.
Yeah, a nice day. We also celebrate our top radio stations here at Royal Media Services. We've got lots coming up right here on Friday night. Let's take a look at stories making headlines.
Jameni, Omburu 2032 ODM tutaachia kwamba imepata kiti ya naibu wa rais, deputizing Professor Kithure Kindiki tukimweka pale Ikuru.
Not Kindiki's job. Mount Kenya politicians tell of ODM over Oburu's demand for the deputy president's post. Premature campaigns are distracting from service delivery. Catholic bishops warn political leaders and condemn police attack on Othaya Church.
Akapelekwa hospitali mahali anataka kusaidiwa. Hiyo hospitali inaitwa Yashoda huko India. Sasa hiyo pesa ilitumika ambayo tulipewa mpaka ikaisha kabla hajatibiwa.
Stuck in India for 3 months. Kenyan teachers long wait for funds approval to get a bone marrow transplant for acute myeloid leukemia.
Mawakili ndio wanapaswa kuwa wakitetea haki za watu ambao wanafanyiwa sexual harassment, lakini sisi ndio victims.
No to sexual harassment. Young lawyers hold march to protest sexual harassment by senior colleagues in office spaces.
Thanks for joining us. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Yula Nzale. Friday night starts now, and Mount Kenya region leaders loyal to the broad-based government have dismissed ODM's ambitions for the deputy president's seat, terming the proposal made by Orange leader Oburu Odinga as a non-starter. The Mount Kenya leaders say the number 2 position is not up for negotiation. A number of them have threatened to leave the broad-based government should ODM insist, with others suggesting that Deputy President Kithure Kindiki should just cross over and join ODM. Melita Oletenges with the details.
As talk of possible ODM-UDA political union gains momentum, questions are emerging over whether such an alliance could trigger a fallout between President William Ruto and his deputy, Professor Kithure Kindiki. Speaking recently, ODM leader Dr. Oburu Oginga openly declared that his party is keen on the deputy president's seat in any coalition talks with UDA, remarks that have sparked uproar among Kindiki's allies.
As far as we are in broad-based government as one government or broad-based government, the seat of the deputy president is not negotiable. It has to remain with Professor Kithure Kindiki.
Hivyo jameni, Omburu 2032 ODM tutaachia kwamba imepata kiti ya naibu wa rais, deputizing Professor Kithure Kindiki tukimweka pale Ikuru.
Some of the leaders saying insistence by ODM on taking the seat would be the breaking point with the broad-based government.
Hiyo tunasema wakuje juu, waende chini, waende kando, hatuachili. Kama kuna kitu inaweza fanya tutoke kwa hii serikali na hiyo muungano ni kiti ya namba 2. Tunaambia ODM wa relax.
Naibu wa rais usiku na mchana ni Kithure Abraham. How to get a non-negotiable.
The leaders who spoke separately in Meru, Kiambu and Tharaka Nithi saying they are behind the deputy president and accusing ODM of trying to dictate terms.
Mtu anaona msichana mzuri anaitwa kiti ya deputy president. Lakini huyu msichana ako na mwenyewe. Ni bibi ya mtu ametolewa mahali. Kwa hivyo kunyemelea haujakatazwa. Sisi kazi yetu ni kuchunga huyu bibi. Tuko naye nyumbani, tumelisha vizuri. Tumefalisha vizuri. Tukilisha bibi mzuri, tufalishe mzuri, kwa nini tuogope mwanaume mwingine?
Lakini kusema kweli, hata nikikuita kwa nyumba yangu, wewe unaniambia niamuke ile kiti ninakalia, wewe ukalia ama unakalia ile ninakupatia?
Tharaka Nithi Governor Muthomi Njuki speaking tongue in cheek, saying the deputy president could as well cross the aisle.
Should the ODM really insist they have to stay in broad-based government, they don't want that seat, we are willing to make one very, very simple compromise. Because the president is UDA, we can lend them Kithure Kindiki to be in ODM, and he can still remain as the deputy president of Kenya.
The resistance from Mount Kenya leaders sets the stage for what could be tough and delicate negotiations between ODM and UDA ahead of 2027. Melita Olitenges, Citizen TV.
And ODM leader Oburu Odinga, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, and DCP Party leader Rigathi Gachagua met at the residence of Machakos Senator Agnes Kavindu during a visit to condole with her over the loss of Hassan Moses Muthama Nduya. The leaders called for unity, urging Kenyans not to allow political differences to divide the country. Kalonzo maintained that no intimidation or political maneuvering can erase the memory of those who lost their lives during the anti-government protests, saying their sacrifice must not be in vain. Willie Lusige reports.
A rare meeting between DCP party leader Rigathi Gachagua, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and ODM's Oburu Odinga in Machakos raised eyebrows as the three came together during a visit to condole with Machakos Senator Agnes Kavindu. The leaders visited the home of Kavindu, who alongside former Senator Johnson Muthama lost their son Moses Muthama Nduya.
As we mourn the departure of our son here, Moses, tuendelee na kuwa nguvu. Tujiwekee nguvu, never give up, never be intimidated.
A visit to condole with the bereaved quickly became somewhat political, coming at a time of shifting alliances ahead of the next electoral cycle. Kalonzo urged Kenyans not to allow political differences to divide the country, emphasizing the need to continue fighting for democracy, justice, and good governance.
We should never forget where we are coming from. For temporary pleasures, the greater calling is for a country that is democratic.
He also defended the youth who participated in the Gen Z anti-government protest, saying the country must not forget those who lost their lives or were injured while demanding accountability.
People don't forget these injustices. These injustices cannot be wished away. Kenyans refuse bribery, open day bribery. No amount of bribery can resurrect Rex Masai.
The visit came at a time when both the government and the opposition are experiencing changes in loyalties, with the changes expected across the political divide. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Staying with politics, a section of lawmakers allied to the broad-based government have expressed support for President William Ruto, warning against ethnic-driven politics. Amidst growing factional divisions in the Orange Democratic Movement, the leaders who spoke in Makadara during an education funds drive downplayed calls for ODM leader Dr. Oburu Oginga to take on rebels wrecking the party from within. Ayub Abdikadir reports.
In an apparent move to forestall a fallout in the Orange Party, following eventful past 48 hours, the broad-based breed camped in Nairobi County, seemingly sourcing support while labeling fears of ODM party's collapse a false prophecy.
Baba alikuwa mzee, hakuwa kijana. Alikuwa mzee, kwani mwataka kutuambia sasa daktari ni mzee hastahili? Kwa hivyo mlikuwa mnachezea baba.
Kijana Dr. Oburu Oginga. Nawaambia Oburu Oginga, you are a new broom in ODM. You must take your rightful position. ODM is now the minority party in the National Assembly.
Tuko na serikali moja ya William Samoei. Na leo tumejisikia vizuri sana kwa sababu tuko kwenye broad-based. But today we are saying Kenya is bigger than an individual. Sindio? tumesema tukae pamoja kama ndugu na dada.
And in downplaying opposition to the broad-based arrangement, the leaders called on Oburu Oginga to steady the orange ship amid turbulence tied to internal opposition, born out of the political marriage between President William Ruto's UDA and ODM parties.
Any politician ambaye anaanza kuzungumza mambo ya ukabila Nairobi, tunaomba wananchi mumkatae, kwa sababu nyinyi nyote lazima tupendane. We bring up our country, na hivyo ndio tutajenga nchi yetu.
So wajua sisi kama ODM na UDA we are partners. Tutakaa tuangalie ile kitu muhimu ni kudeliver for the broad-based government the most seats.
Chama mbili zile kubwa hapa nchini, UDA na ODM. Na sasa wapinzani wetu wale wanataka kupambana na sisi wanahitaji maombi kidogo, kwa sababu sijui watapenya vipi, sijui watapitia njia gani kupambana na sisi na William Samoei Ruto.
Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.
Thank you.
Orange Democratic Movement ODM party leaders are now accusing Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna of working with former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua to weaken the party in its perceived strongholds. Speaking in Kilifi County, the leaders affirmed that Catherine Omanyo is their preferred Secretary General, asking supporters to throw their weight behind party leader Oburu Odinga in the ongoing negotiations with President William Ruto's United Democratic Alliance. Francis Mtalaki reports from Kilifi County.
The Orange Party leaders are led by party chairperson Gladys Wanga were in Kilifi County on Saturday, where they held a series of rallies in Magarini and Kilifi South. The leaders accused Edwin Sifuna of working with the DCP party, claiming that Sifuna and those opposed to the broad-based arrangement have formed a political vehicle that will team up with the opposition.
Wale watu ambao hawataki kusapoti chama na wanafanya ukora ndio waweze kusambaratisha chama iweze kuchukua mambo ya nidhamu ili chama ya ODM isimame imara vile baba aliiwacha.
Nikiwa katibu mkuu, ninaelewa kwamba baba alituachia kazi nzito, kazi ambayo haihitaji mtu ambaye ni watermelon. Mnajua tikitiki maji? Yes, kwa sababu ukiwa unayumba ile kazi baba aliwacha, tutasukuma, tutashindwa kusukuma, si ndio?
Tusiwe kama popo nundu. Si ndege si mnyama. Sijui mchana ni ndege, usiku ni mnyama, mara niko chungwa, mara sijui niko kule. Tukuelewe vipi jamani? Kweli kwa hakika tunasema ya kwamba mtu ajitambulishe kwa tabia zake, na siku zote tabia ina dawa. Wewe kama ni kitatange, ubaki na utatange wako, lakini kwenye chungwa tunataka watu wa kukaa na kutulia.
The leaders say Catherine Omanyo is their preferred choice for the position of Party Secretary General and have asked Sifuna to quit the party after differing with its positions on several matters.
Na ndani ya ODM yule pengine atakuwa yuko na nyefu. Kama ni kuenda aende, ODM iachwe hapa Kilifi.
Sifuna sikiza. Tulikuwa tumekupa heshima, tukakuheshimu kama SG. Time yako 18 umeingia saizi, kazi imekushinda. Catherine Omanyo pale anaiweza. Wacha kufanya haya, kwa nini unaenda kotini?
Wale ambao wanasema mambo ya shares, wale wa kabila, wale ambao hawajui kabila ndogo wanajua kabila kubwa peke yao, hao hatutazungumza nao.
Wanakasumba ya kwamba chama ya ODM imetengenezwa na baba Raila Amolo Odinga ili ifanye kazi ya upinzani peke yake. Hiyo ni kazi ama ni kazi bure hiyo?
Manifesto ya upande mwingine ni ukabila. Manifesto ya upande mwingine ni kusema ya kwa wewe sio shareholder, wewe ndio shareholder.
The leaders are expected to hold a series of rallies in Taita Taveta County on Saturday before winding up their coast tour on Sunday. Francis Mtalaki, Citizen TV.
And the church has had its say, and the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops has raised the alarm over rising political temperatures in the country, which they say are fueling tensions among Kenyans. In a statement released Friday, the bishops fingered the political class for premature campaigns and mobilization done at the expense of service delivery to the people. And as Laura Otieno reports, the men of the cloth also asked young people to take up their civic duty in their clamor for better governance.
Weeks after police officers lobbed tear gas into a church in Nyeri, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops has expressed grave concerns over the state of the nation, citing a troubling trend of political intolerance, giving rise to incidences of violence and intimidation. In a statement, the bishops said that the use of force against armed citizens is not only a violation of human rights, but also that targeting a church also violates the freedom of worship. The clergy called on the prosecution of all those engaged in what they said was political thuggery alongside their sponsors. The bishops pointed out what they said are premature political campaigns and mobilization as leaders jostle for positions ahead of 2027.
Politics must not become a battlefield for personal ambition at the expense of national cohesion and social harmony.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission also came under the spotlight, with the bishops calling for a nationwide voter education drive to ensure that no Kenyan is disenfranchised in the electoral process. They called on Parliament to enact the necessary electoral reforms to ensure adequate resourcing for IEBC to enable the Commission to incorporate crucial lessons, including the implementation of the Kriegler Report.
Public office is a sacred trust, not an avenue for self-enrichment. We urge the government to strengthen transparency, ensure robust accountability, and foster meaningful citizen participation at all levels.
Young people were also called upon to actively participate in civic processes, saying their energy is essential to enable the country overcome corruption, nepotism, and self-interest that continue to undermine public trust. The Catholic bishops met at the Immaculate Conception Shrine in Lodwar, where they launched this year's Lenten campaign under the theme of building a just, peaceful and united Kenya, upholding human dignity.
Throughout these 5 weeks, the Church invites us to work together as one people in prayer, reflecting, and also in action.
Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
Elsewhere, President William Ruto's security has in the recent days been breached, especially while presiding over Nyota programs. The latest incident being yesterday when a man charged towards him at an event in Wajir County. The spike in such cases raising the question, what has changed about Kenya's reputedly impenetrable presidential and VIP protection? Emmanuel Toh reports.
Vijana ya Wajir, asanteni.
It is one of the latest daring incidents of presidential security breaches. This man, who has now been identified as Ahmed Mohamed, charged towards President William Ruto, only to be dramatically swept off the path by a vigilant presidential guard. The man was Friday arrested and interrogated as the police tried to piece together his motive. The scare follows another one in Mombasa a week ago, where a young man who was attending a Nyota event in the coastal city ran through the security barricade from the front and tumbled onto the podium where President William Ruto was addressing.
If this is a person who had ill intentions, automatically he should have lunged at the president. You never know, he might have been carrying a knife, he might have been carrying a hand grenade, whatever weapon he had, you see? So that is a risk that we should not allow to happen at all, at all, at all.
While security agencies mull over the embarrassing breaches, the new 360 degrees campaign-like setups may have been contributing to the incidents which have left the president exposed. From Mombasa to the Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium in Kisumu, the recent UDA Aspirants Forum at State House, Nairobi, and other engagements that bring together thousands of people close to the president, the setup has had a 360 degrees that not only exposes the president, but also presents a nightmare for the security team providing cover.
We have a president who is campaigning for a second term and a president who wants to look a man of the people. And when you want to be a man of the people, you don't have too much security between you and the people that you're trying to bring yourself close to. And it's high time now, the people that are responsible for the president's security relook at all these setups and now come up with new ways of ensuring the president's safety.
President Ruto's security was last year breached as a man in the crowd at a rally in Migori County hurled a shoe at him.
The president is the symbol of authority. The president is the power that is running Kenya right now. And if anything happens to the president, we will not have a country that we call Kenya today, because different players will come in and then there will be blame game.
A man was also arrested in 2019 after this daring incident when he blocked President Uhuru Kenyatta's convoy then, forcing the president's car to a sudden halt. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Let's take a look at the latest on SHA and the promise of universal health coverage under the new Social Health Authority. SHA is facing a literal life and death test. For thousands of Kenyans referred abroad for specialized treatment, the transition from NHIF to SHA has turned into a bureaucratic nightmare. Tonight, we bring you the story of a Kenyan teacher from Kesetan, Sacho location, Baringo Central, who is stranded in an Indian hospital caught between a debilitating disease and a state insurer that says its hands are tied. Brenda Wanga with the details.
India. From a hospital bed in India, thousands of miles away from home, Grace Jepkemoi Chepyegon, a Kenyan teacher, fights a silent battle against acute myeloid leukemia. While hope remains her weapon, growing bills remain her reality. Before her diagnosis in 2025, she was a beloved teacher here, the pride of her learners and her communities. For the last 3 months, she has been a patient in urgent need of a bone marrow transplant at a cost of at least 5 million shillings. Her family has already exhausted another 5 million on chemotherapy, travel, and desensitization. They believe that being registered under SHA after the transition from teachers' medical cover provided by a local firm would be their safety net. They were wrong.
Sasa hiyo pesa ilitumika ambaye tulipewa mpaka ikaisha kabla hajatibiwa.
Back home, the family's search for answers has been a merry-go-round of letters from SHA to the TSC, and the silence has been deafening.
Wanatuambia bado wanafanya ile registration ama identification ya mahospitali ambayo iko India.
So why isn't SHA paying? The authority's CEO, Dr. Mercy Mwangangi, this week admitted to a parliamentary committee that the system is currently paralyzed. Under the new SHE Act, SHA must follow a rigorous fresh procurement process to onboard and contract every single foreign hospital.
In the process of opening those submissions from the hospitals and extending contracts. This process should be concluded by the end of this month, February.
Hospitals in India and Turkey, wary of unpaid debts, are now demanding cash up front, refusing to admit Kenyan patients on credit.
They speed up the process. Kama ni policy ya kupitisha sheria ifanywe haraka ili SHA ifanye kazi, kwa sababu watu wengi mbali na madam, kuna watu wengine wanahangaika.
Tungeomba serikali kama inawezekana waongeze hiyo, wale wameenda kutafuta matibabu huko ngambo watuongezee kweli, sababu hiyo 500 kama pesa nani pia.
The 500 Gladys refers to is the current cap, while SHA has listed 36 to 39 procedures for overseas cover, including bone marrow transplants. The payout is currently capped at just 500,000 shillings. For a 5 million shilling surgery, neighbors say it is a drop in the ocean. For now, the teacher remains on painkillers, waiting for a contract to be signed in Nairobi so she can get a transplant in India. The Ministry of Health maintains that the onboarding of these foreign facilities will be concluded by the end of March 2026. But for a leukemia patient whose blasts are already at 9%, March might be a lifetime away. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
And a group of young lawyers, those in pupillage and law students, on Friday morning marched to the Law Society of Kenya offices along Gitanga Road to protest against alleged rampant cases of sexual harassment by their seniors. In their numbers and armed with vuvuzelas and placards, the group demanded action from the Law Society of Kenya, accusing them of failing to reprimand those allegedly involved in the vice. They say they will move to court to seek justice for victims, most of who remain silent due to fear of victimization. LSK says a case brought before its advocates' disciplinary tribunal has been attended to, as Gatete Njoroge reports.
Dressed in official advocate attire, armed with vuvuzelas and placards, young lawyers, those in pupillage and law students, took their frustrations to Gitanga Road. Trained to champion for justice and fight perpetrators of injustice, the young men and women say they have become victims of the same injustice. The group claims there have been rampant cases of sexual harassment involving a section of their senior colleagues.
We reject a profession where power is abused. We reject. Where complaints are ignored. We reject. Where victims are interrogated. We reject. Instead of protected. We reject. And where perpetrators continue to rise while survivors are punished with silence. We reject. The manner in which my complaint was handled was irregular. This is not a small issue. This is not something to be neglected.
The group, which camped at LSK offices, wants implementation of the sexual harassment policy passed in 2019. They say they would seek legal redress in court and ensure justice is served for the victims as a way of protecting future lawyers.
It is the right time for us to ensure that we have a sexual harassment policy that bites. There is no reason why we have the sexual harassment policy of 2019 that has been proven to be toothless, and the decision came out in November of last year. It is February, end of February this year, nothing has been done to reform.
Hatutabakia tu hapa. Hatuta make two statement peke yake. Yes. Tunaenda kotini, tunaenda kushtaki wale wote ambao wamesemekana wanafanya sexual harassment katika profession ya mawakili.
LSK Vice President Mwaura Kabata confirmed the society has received a few complaints. Kabata, however, said the specific case reported by a complainant was dealt with by the Advocates' Disciplinary Tribunal, which ruled that they did not have jurisdiction as sexual harassment is a criminal offense. He called for cooperation to battle the vice.
We are asking members of the public as well as members of the law society who have information against members of the LSK to report, because sooner or later it is important to protect our societies from persons who conduct themselves in a manner that is not only embarrassing but is shameful.
LSK President Faith Odhiambo had earlier this week issued a statement committing to ensuring justice for victims.
What we want, justice! What we want it now!
Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
As we take a break, I'll take you back to the Shakahola forest incident, which remains one of the starkest examples of how extreme spiritual teachings around disease can lead to catastrophic outcomes. And later on, we'll be looking at public health concerns, and concerns particularly raised by the KMPDC, the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council, which has raised alarm after reports emerged that some claims have been made of miraculous healings. We'll be looking at issues around public health and faith-based healing when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. Ideally, pregnancy is supposed to be the beginning of life, but for some women, it becomes the beginning of a long journey battling cancer. Gestational trophoblastic neoplasia, or GTN, is a rare cancer linked to pregnancy that not many Kenyans have heard of. We spoke about it last Friday, right here on Friday night when we had a case study. But just going back to this, it's essentially pregnancy cells that grow out of control. While it is highly curable, many women are diagnosed too late simply because they don't know it exists. Today, at the Kenyatta National Hospital, survivors and patients gathered not just to share stories, but to spread a message of hope. And Citizen TV's Mary Morker was there with that story.
I'll talk about the diagnosis. For most women, pregnancy often represents life, dreams, hope, and possibility. But for a small number, complications after pregnancy can develop into a rare cancer known as gestational trophoblastic neoplasia, or GTN. It is a disease that forms from abnormal pregnancy tissue in the uterus, sometimes after a miscarriage, a molar pregnancy, or even a normal birth. Yet, despite being highly curable, awareness remains dangerously low.
Blastic neoplasia is a tumor that occurs because of placental tissue, and it affects women mainly of reproductive age. They largely present with bleeding during the pregnancy or bleeding after pregnancy.
For Josephine Muya, when she started bleeding heavily, she erroneously believed it was just her circle acting up and ignored it. But when her body grew weak from the hemorrhage and she started experiencing crippling fatigue, she knew something was wrong and she sought medical attention. She says nothing could have prepared her for the diagnosis she received.
It was so painful, like uko na kanza, ujui inakuja aje, ujui itareact aje. Unasikianga watu wamekufa na kanza mtu aponi, so akili yako isha set, even you are on the journey, utakufa.
25-year-old Faith Mbithe, a mother of 3 from Makueni County, found herself sailing in the same waters. Just a few months postpartum, she received a similar diagnosis, one that cost her womb. As part of the treatment, doctors had to perform a hysterectomy.
Nikashindwa sasa hata niaje, watoto wangu watalelewa na nani? Nilikuwa na stress mingi. Si kifo, wewe ukibora ukisha kunywa dawa vizuri, ufuatanishe, usivukishe, inapona.
Inside this meeting room at Kenyatta National Hospital, the mood is not one of sorrow, but of survival. Here, patients sit next to survivors, living proof that this cancer can be beaten. Their goal now is to turn this rare diagnosis into common knowledge.
I realized this is a type of cancer that is not well known, so we decided to talk about it, to speak about it, to create awareness. We came up with a group, GTN Cancer Support Group. We work together with Kenyatta National Hospital and Faraja Cancer Center.
Mary Moki, Citizen TV.
Offering hope there at the Kenyatta National Hospital. Thanks, Mary Moki, for that story. Now, the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council, IBEC, chaired by Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, has resolved that the National Treasury immediately releases 2 billion shillings to kickstart free maternal services in Level 2 and Level 3 health facilities across the country. The move is aimed at strengthening healthcare delivery as the government steps up efforts to bolster the sector. IBEC also confirmed progress in the Universal Health Coverage UHC program, despite criticism from a section of Kenyans. At least 1,287 health facilities managed by county governments have been directed to urgently submit accurate and verifiable bank account details to enable the Social Health Authority, SHA, to clear pending bills. The Ministry of Health and SHA have insisted that any questionable claims or those submitted without proper supporting documentation will not be paid. All county governments have also reportedly signed up for the installation of medical equipment under the National Equipment Service Program.
from 7 million in NHIF to now 29.4 million Kenyans. We are moving towards universality. If we can keep on increasing that space into 40 million, then truly we can say we have a universal healthcare program.
Both health and finance, to provide us with accurate, verifiable details for over 1,287 health facilities immediately. We want to clear these payments by the end of this month.
The holding of hay or livestock feed within the county be given priority for offtake by the national government, because that will also inject some liquidity into those counties.
The Principal Secretary in the State Department for Broadcasting and Telecommunications, Stephen Isaboke, led Kenyans in commemorating World Radio Day, celebrating a medium that has for decades been the heartbeat of information across the country. In Mombasa, journalists took to the streets in a colorful procession to sensitize the public on the significance of the day. Crispin Otieno with more.
In Kenya, radio is a medium which has kept society abreast with news, informed farmers about weather patterns, connected families through dedication programs, mobilized communities during national moments, and given a voice to the voiceless. Today, as digital platforms dominate conversation, radio continues to reinvent itself, streaming online, engaging audiences through social media, and now embracing artificial intelligence to improve content delivery. In Mombasa, the scene was a blend of past and present, veteran broadcasters walking side by side with young journalists, all united by a shared love for the microphone.
Napenda kuwarai, especially wale waandishi wa redio, mtu asikudharau, sababu redio ina mchango mkubwa sana kule mashinani. Tutumie redio kwa kupitisha habari kama ni peace, security and everything.
Ule mfanyikazi wa kibanda, hata sasa hii unapata kila pikipiki yote imekuwa redio. So naona kwamba redio imeleta mafanikio mengi kwa upande wa elimu. Unapata kila Saturday radio stations zote ni kama ziko na kipindi ya elimu.
Wakumbuka hata hapa nchini Kenya na pia Rwanda, radio imetumika katika masuala mengi ya uchaguzi. Imetumika kwa uzuri na pia kwa ubaya. Wakati wa COVID pia radio imetumika. Tunaelekea mambo ya uchaguzi. Kwa hivyo radio itakuwa ni chombo muhimu sana katika kuhamasisha wananchi.
Leaders who joined the celebrations emphasized the need to safeguard professional ethics even as technology evolves.
In terms of World Radio Day, radio is one of the earliest means of communication. And in fact, radio is the most sort of effective way to communicate across the population, from the rural villages to the urban centers, those driving cars and all that. So we say our radio is actually effective to deliver messages of development, messages of peace, messages of all these issues that the Mama County has addressed.
Sasa radio ndio mambo yote, radio ndio indamusha watu, radio inafanya information, na mkisikia ngoma kutoka kwa radio, mna dance pole pole. So radio ni kila kitu.
Radio ni radio.
Na una funny thing about radio, yule anaongea ukimpata physically ni tofauti.
Radio Citizen. Principal Secretary in the State Department of Broadcasting and Telecommunication, Stephen Isaboke, noted stakeholders must ensure technology enhances credibility rather than undermines it. Veteran journalists also reflected on the golden era of broadcasting, when a radio announcer's voice was both authority and companion in millions of homes.
Unakwambia halaiki ya mashabiki wa mchezo walikuwa wakisikiliza radio. Radio ndio ilikuwa chombo cha pekee ambacho kilikuwa kikitangaza mashindano ya mipira.
Every year on February 13th, the world marks World Radio Day, a day set aside by UNESCO in 2021 and later endorsed by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012 to recognize the impact of radio in society. Crispino Otieno for Citizen TV.
And right here at Royal Media Services, we celebrate all the radio stations under the RMS stable. Now, transport was paralyzed for the better part of Friday along the Maralal-Nyahururu Road as irate residents of Suguta Marmar in Samburu County staged protests barricading the road and lighting over what they termed alarming cases of maternal deaths at Suguta Marmar Level 4 Hospital due to medical negligence. They claim the hospital has recorded 2 cases of maternal deaths for the last 2 weeks. Our reporter Boniface Baraza has the details.
Residents of Suguta Marmar, Samburu County barricaded the busy Maral Nyahururu Road for more than 3 hours for the better part of Friday morning, lighting bonfires to express their displeasure and disappointment with the management of Suguta Marmar Level 4 Hospital. Accusing the medics of medical negligence that has cut short the life of their loved ones, the latest case being a maternal death recorded on Thursday at the facility at the mercy of medics.
Jana nimeleta huyo mama ambaye ni mama mchanga, ni mama ako na mtoto mmoja, na tulipomleta hapa daktari ni mmoja, wa mama wanaumana watano, anashindwa atashughulikia mgani.
Tumepata hapa zaidi ya mama wawili, na jana mwingine alifariki akiwa na mtoto wake. Kwa sababu nini? Kwa tumbo. Mtoto mwenyewe ako kwa tumbo,
Frustrated residents accused the facility medics of medical negligence that has often caused them pain and agony whenever they seek medication at the facility.
Mwaka jana nilipata kujifungua, lakini niliweza kupoteza mtoto wangu kwa sababu daktari mwenye alikuwa hakunishughulikia na njia yenye ilikuwa inastahili. Uchungu sana kama kina mama, kila wakati tunapoteza watoto.
Ukigonjeka ama ukiwa hali mbaya, ambulance iwezi kukubeba paka utoe pesa, paka uweke mafuta kwa hiyo ambulance. Na kama kuna mama juzi tulichangie na apeleke hospitali lakini hata kusurvive.
The hospital's board of management has confirmed awareness of the case, promising punitive measures against those found culpable.
Tulipatwa na kifo hapa hospitali ya mama mjamzito ambaye alikuwa anajaribu kujifungua, na kama mwenyekiti wa board hii waita madaktari na specialist wengine wafanye upelelezi ya kuthibitisha kifo hicho, kwa sababu tumerekodi vifo.
Kaunti yetu iko na jukumu ya kupea watu wetu afya, ya kuweka madawa ya kutosha, ya kuweka madaktari ya kutosha.
With transport paralyzed for the better part of Friday, security officers were forced to step in to contain the demonstrators. They lobbed tear gas for transport to continue uninterrupted.
The case paints a picture to the worrying statistics of maternal death informed by medical negligence, incompetence, with residents here calling to an end to that worrying statistics. Boniface Barasa, Citizen TV, Suguta Sub-County Hospital, Samburu County.
Kenya is at the center of a growing debate over the spiritualizing of disease. But what happens when people prioritize spiritual or faith-based explanations over evidence-based treatment? Tonight, we speak with Dr. Ngala Rain Mwendwa on the implications of these beliefs for health-seeking behavior and public health outcomes in Kenya. Thanks for speaking to us, Dr. Rain.
Asante sana.
When we hear terms like, illnesses like HIV or cancer being described as spiritual attacks, from a medical perspective, from a doctor's point of view, what's your first reaction to that?
I'd say from a medical scientific point of view, it's absolutely false. There's either you have, for example, let's look at HIV. HIV is caused by a virus, yeah? So the human immunodeficiency virus. When we talk about cancer, this is a group of actually diseases, and they can be caused by different things. Some are being caused by infections, for example, the human papilloma virus that's known to cause cervical cancer. So with all diseases, there has to be some form of a diagnosis. Yeah? When there is lack of information, it's easy for us to coin other terms like spiritual, or even things like a child having epilepsy or somebody having epilepsy. Somebody will say that they have demons and things like that, where we just know this is an imbalance in the brain with the nerves and the neurology of the brain. Right. So absolutely not. I don't believe in medical things that have been scientifically proven being termed as spiritual.
Let's talk about medical mysteries. And we know some medics have actually come out and said, look, this person had tested positive for something, and after prayer, the results are reading different.
I mean, it's really a conundrum, especially in Kenya when it comes to religion and faith. It's a delicate thing. I do believe prayer has its use when it comes to somebody dealing with a medical condition. However, we know that there is no scientific evidence, as we know globally. We're not just looking at Kenya, we're talking about the world, of somebody being prayed for and they've been cured of a certain cancer, or being cured of, let's say, HIV, because it's easy to test HIV. We do a test, we check your viral load. Now, the problem is that religion has become a place where there are too many charlatans. There is just too much magic and fraud that is going on, to the point where we are seeing documentaries of people falsifying results just so you can get away with it. We've seen things in Kenya, potassium permanganate, once upon a time claiming miraculous things. So in terms of sitting down in a controlled medical study where you say, I'm going to pray and I'm going to cure you of HIV, or I'm going to cure you of cancer, we don't have that evidence globally, but prayer does help in terms of the psychology.
Just zeroing in on some of the life-saving medication, like when you talk about ARVs, for instance, or cancer treatment, what are the risks when patients withdraw or stop taking this medication because of the hope they've been offered in terms of miraculous cures?
So this is a phenomenon that happens. It's almost similar to what you would call a placebo effect. When you go for these crusades, or when you go for in the church and you have praise and worship, there's a lot of adrenaline. And when you have this adrenaline, you get this sense of euphoria. And when you're in that state, when you're having maybe pain, you've come there, you have arthritis, temporarily what happens is, because you're in this euphoric state, adrenaline goes up, something happens in your body with the hormones, and the pain does go down temporarily. So you have this sense of belief that, oh, I have been cured. It's the Holy Spirit or whatever deity that you believe in that has actually cured you. And the risk with that is, now once you feel that and you say, no, I've gone to church today and I felt much better and I've been cured, you stop taking your medication. Right. And when you stop taking things like your anti-TB medication or your antiretroviral drugs, what happens is that scientifically your viral load is going to come up. Your TB is now going to start getting back. If you were cancer and you are remission free, and you stop taking or doing the right thing you were doing, whether it was chemotherapy, and you stop going for that, then the cancer now gets back and it gets more aggressive. So it's absolutely dangerous.
Medically speaking, what should somebody do to actually confirm that they are truly cured of these diseases?
So number one, we need to know medically, does this person have this disease? Because this is the other thing also that some of these groups and some of these proclaimed prophets are using, where somebody is not actually HIV positive. For example, I'm going to use HIV a lot because that's what has been used. Yeah. You've never been HIV positive. So of course, if you claim you were once HIV positive and you go and get tested, the result is going to show negative. And if you've lied about your HIV status, then it's going to look true. Yeah. So the only way you can do it is by doing proper diagnostic, the gold standard of diagnostic for HIV, by doing a PCR, a viral load, because those would never lie. If you have TB, you go for the PCR test for TB and go through that and see whether it's changing. And if you have withdrawn from, let's say, for example, HIV treatment, and you say you've been cured, you'd come back and we test the viral load. If the viral load is close to 0 or none, we can say, yes, you are cured. But how do you know this person was not taking the antiretroviral medications? Yeah. And that's why it's very important about these so-called claims, because these things have to be done in a medically controlled setting for us to conduct studies, make sure that everything is up to par. And so far, globally, there is no miraculous leader. We have many prophets, we have many religious faiths and deities, and nobody has come through and convinced the scientific groups that this is actually possible.
Ethical concerns that medics across the country, you and your colleagues, have around some of these religious leaders speaking issues around miraculous cures.
The religious faction is very important. In fact, a lot of the public health measures and announcements can't happen without the religious different religious groups, because they play an integral role in how they reach out to populations, because most of us we are a religious nation, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Indian, they play a very, very significant role. However, it's very, very important to note that we must work together and understand that when it is evidence-based, and also call out what is not ethically approved. And this is also because they prey on the vulnerability of the patients. Medics, we are very blunt. We give you the science. If we tell you have cancer and it's a stage 4, it's a stage 4. We're not going to sugarcoat and start selling you other things. But now this is where they come in. They take advantage of that. You start giving somebody hope because the doctor has told you there's no way you're beating this. We've caught the cancer very, very late, and this is the best we can do. Maybe it's palliative care and we just make you feel comfortable. I'm very happy that the Ministry of Health was very, very firm and assertive that they should not be preaching such messages, because this is just like anything else. It needs proper regulation.
Dr. Angala Rain Mwendwa's perspective on spiritualizing disease, which is the current going on in the country. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. Let's talk business. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has secured a commitment from Zambia to supply up to 1 million bags of maize to cushion Kenya against worsening drought conditions. The deal was reached during talks with Zambia's Agriculture Minister Ruben Mtolo on the sidelines of the 49th Governing Council of the International Fund for Agricultural Development in Italy. The government estimates 3.3 million Kenyans face acute food insecurity, a number projected to rise to 3.6 million by June this year. Imports from Zambia would not require duty-free gazettement, as both countries are members of the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa. An initial 250,000 bags could be cleared first to stabilize supply while authorities monitor the situation. Over the past few months, some of the country's biggest lenders have announced sweeping executive changes, boardroom reshuffles, and high-profile hires from fintech, rival banks, and even government. The moves point to a recalibrating sector, balancing digital disruption, regional expansion, and stronger governance. Here now is Jasmine Wamboi with that report.
At Absa Bank Kenya, Sitoyo Lopokoyit, former M-Pesa Africa Managing Director, has been appointed Chief Executive for Personal and Private Banking. The appointment tells of a deliberate pivot towards digital-first banking, bringing fintech expertise into a traditional banking structure. Absa has also reorganized several senior roles, including hiring Renato de Souza from rival Stanbic. At the same time, Stanbic Holdings has announced the appointment of Joshua Igara as its new CEO, effective March 1st. Igara succeeds Patrick Muhere, who retires at the end of February after leading the institution since 2020. Igara currently serves as Standard Bank's regional chief for East Africa. At mid-tier lender Commercial International Bank Kenya, Tyrus Mithiga has been named CEO effective February, subject to regulatory approvals in Kenya and Egypt. Mithiga joins from NCBA, where he served as Group Director for Corporate and Investment Banking. His appointment follows a relatively short tenure by his predecessor. Smaller lenders are also reinforcing governance structures. CDN Bank also appointed former Cabinet Secretary James Macharia as chairman of the board, replacing Centum Investment Chief Executive Dr. James Moria. Moria chaired the bank since 2014. Macharia's return to banking after more than a decade in government comes alongside a broader board reshuffle. And just this month, Ecobank Kenya named Rebecca Mbithi as its new managing director. She succeeds Josephine Anan Ankoma, who stepped down to focus on her regional responsibilities within the Ecobank Group across Central, Eastern and Southern Africa. Jasmine Wamboi, Citizen TV.
And Kenya has announced the launch of 2 interconnected digital trade platforms designed to empower African embassies to boost trade and investment. The platforms, dubbed Biashara Link and Deal House, are expected to provide a common platform for capturing and organizing trade opportunities. Jimmy Mbogo has more.
Kenya is now banking on its tech-savvy population and digital platform to boost the country's trade. Speaking during the launch of the Biashara Link and Deal House, two interconnected digital trade platform designed to empower African embassies as transaction-enabled hub for trade and investment. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi noted that Kenya's strength lies on cooperation with others.
Too often, opportunities are identified but not realized. Promising engagements stall and potential partnerships fade. Transactions take too long, cost too much, or fail to yield the expected results altogether. This is the execution gap we must confront.
We are witnessing is a partnership between government and private sector to create an infrastructure that enables people to walk, to ride, and to drive on a trade superhighway. And that is why I'm really excited, because the scale of bridging the gap can be significant because it's not physical infrastructure.
The platforms, which have been developed by RealSource Africa, a Pan-African trade infrastructure institution in partnership with Equity Bank, have also been designed to close the continent's trade execution gaps.
As the world is moving ever closer to the precipice of fragmentation, supply chain disruptions, increased trade protectionism, increased investment protectionism, increased industrial development protectionism, our continent is moving the opposite direction. We're liberalizing intra-Africa trade. We're liberalizing intra-Africa investment.
Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Ndungu. Let's get into the sports news. The Confederation of African Football CAF Executive Committee has confirmed that the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations, to be co-hosted by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, will proceed as scheduled and will not be postponed to 2028. CAF President Patrice Motsepe has outlined that the tournament will be hosted in June and July of next year.
Over the last few days, I see lots of media speculation, whether it's social media or even, I'm told, in the Guardian, the Guardian newspaper. In London, one of the most respected newspapers in the world, that there was an allegation that I am here to tell Tanzania and Kenya and Uganda that I'm taking away the AFCON because our three countries are not going to be ready. That's totally unfounded. That I am enormously confident that we will succeed. Will there be challenges? There are always challenges.
Nairobi United are determined to bow out of the CAF Confederation Cup on a positive note after departing for Lubumbashi yesterday evening ahead of their final Group B fixture against DR Congo's AS Maniema Union on Sunday. Nairobi United are yet to register a point in Group B, having lost all 5 matches played so far. After 5 rounds of matches, Wydad AC sit top of the group with 12 points, 3 ahead of joint second place Maniema and Azam FC, who are level on 9 points.
I think it'll be a firecracking match because Maniema, they need the 3 points, and for us we want to finish in a good or a high note in the team. If we can just play the way we played against Wydad, and of course at the end of the day we try and score, I think it'll be something good for our team. And the most important thing is the chances. We create a lot of chances. When we played Maniema here at home, we did play very well. Maybe in terms of creating chances, but we never scored.
In more sports, 2013 champion and 3-time world half marathon champion Geoffrey Kamworor will be back at the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon for the 19th edition, to be run tomorrow in the United Arab Emirates. There will be 4 races to be run exclusively on the scenic Al Marjan Island. Kenya's Jeffrey Kamworor leads the male elite field with a personal best of 58 minutes and 1 second. But the carefully selected field is more than capable of causing an upset. Jeffrey's greatest threat is another Kenyan, Isia Lasoi, who finished 3rd in 2024 and 2025. Another threat is 2024 Seoul Marathon winner Jemal Yema Mekkonen of Ethiopia, who has only missed the podium once in 7 years of marathon running. The field also has a rising star, 20-year-old Yismail Dilu of Ethiopia, who won the 2025 Cardiff Half Marathon in Wales.
I'm really happy to be back here in Ras Al Khaimah. I was here 13 years ago when I won a race and ran my personal best. And it's a great opportunity to be here again to run a great race as well. My preparation is really good.
For my preparation is good. Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, I can run my BB. I prepare for marathon this year. So I say I go to rack and improve my time. Yeah.
Moving on, world cross-country champion Agnes Ngetich and bronze medalist Daniel Simeo Ebenyo are set to defend their titles at the Sirikwa Classic Cross-Country Tour set for Saturday at Lobo Village Course in Eldoret. Ngetich is coming to the cross-country after opening her 2026 season with victory at the World Cross-Country Championships in Tallahassee in the USA. On his side, Ebenyo will be fighting for a 3rd straight win at the Classic. The winner of the race will carry home 780,000 Kenyan shillings, while 2nd place will have a sum of 650,000, and 3rd place will take home 520,000 shillings.
For women, and then under 20 for men and women will be 500. So the total number of senior athletes will be 2,000. Then of course we have the largest number of kids athletics from 5 years to 15.
Thank you so much. Back to football, the National Super League will enter week 20 over the weekend after a short break for the FKF Cup first round matches. On Saturday, Naivas FC will host Equity Bank FC. FC Talanta will face Vihiga United as Kibera Black Stars tackle Soy United. Fortune Sacco will take on Sunday play host to new table toppers Mofa as they target maximum points. Migori Youth and Mombasa United will be out hunting for maximum points against Nairobi City Stars and Kisumu All Stars, respectively.
Bado tuko na 31. Ukiangalia race bado ni tight, lakini kwa sasa siwezi ongea juu kuna time itafika niseme ikifika mwezi wa 3 hapo katikati. Hiyo table unaweza pata imechukua shape yenyewe. Kwa hivyo kwa sasa tunachukua game moja at hand kama finali.
So that is the sports news that we have for you, of course, over the weekend. We have a big event in the Sevens 2 tournament starting tomorrow. I had a word of a couple of the players today. They're very excited. They told the home fans to come out, bring their energy and umbrellas, of course, because it'll be pretty hot there at the Nyayo Stadium.
Sunny days in Nairobi. And I think really everywhere. Sunny days, it's just been extremely hot.
I've been melting half the day.
Yeah. So a question here for you, Emmanuel, from a fan and a viewer, I mean, really a viewer, somebody who's been watching our news tonight. He's asking about Arsenal. So you watched the game yesterday, I'm sure, against Brentford. So that was a draw. And this person is saying that Arsenal dropped 2 points yesterday. So this is what they're asking. We remain top on the league with 57 points. Of course, and Man City is coming in second with 53 points. But he wants to know from you, Emmanuel, what do you think about Arsenal? Do you think Arsenal still stands the chance to win the EPL?
I think Arsenal are still the favourites. It was a disappointing draw that they had, but Arsenal are still the favourites. They have the upper hand. They have the squad depth. City have been misfiring occasionally. So I'm not sure there would be a consistent challenger through the rest of the season. Arsenal don't have the toughest schedule coming up either, but City and Arsenal will play each other. at the Etihad.
At some point.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So that will be a crucial game.
Wow.
4 points is not a lot in the world of football.
Yeah.
So it's all to play for, but I think Arsenal should be the favourites.
Yeah, and he's saying, this is Arsenal.
Yeah,
That's what he's saying.
This is your year. If you're going to win the EPL, Arsenal fans, it has to be this year.
So you've been answered. Thank you so much for watching. Anything else, Emmanuel, as we close?
No, not too much, but there's a good weekend of sporting action to look forward to this weekend. So we're looking forward to seeing you around.
Many thanks for watching. That's all the time we had tonight. Up next is 10 over 10 with Aziza and Gudaman. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Good night.